I'll try to keep this relatively brief, because it's not a... Like, this theory doesn't have a ton of evidence yet, but it's just something that I wanted to bring up, because it's a weird plot point that Mishima's now slipped in there that seems to be, you know, of its own, like, its own connection. Like, this is something that is not going to be, I would assume, directly set with the 100 Years quest. It's something that will be an outside plot point that will connect into what's going on. And that's with Kirin, because Kirin, instead of just having the coffin, like, you know, as an accessory, it's like, okay, well, I put my opponents in this as I go about it. And then he starts using it as a melee weapon. And on top of that, he says that he's not actually going to put Lactus in there because it already contains his soul, the soul of a king. That has a lot of questions. That has so many questions of how it could play out. Is, like, was Kirin's dragon, the dragon that he consumed, was it a king? Was it Acnologia's soul, the Ignils, Margirs, the Celestial Spirit Kings, Agils? There's a lot of different areas where it can go, especially because, like, pretty much everybody who has the title of king, except for Agil, is dead. Like, are you gonna bring in August? I don't really know. Like he said, it's a really weird one, because if it's a king that is a character we haven't seen before, some brand new one, then it'll be very strange. I think the only way you could do that and it not open way more questions than it answers is if it is like his dragon. Like, say, whoever Kirin's dragon was, I hiccup right there. Whoever Kirin's dragon was the king of, you know, whatever dragon types he was, atmosphere dragons. Kind of like how Ignil was the king of fire dragons, which is something we don't really have a whole lot of, like other dragon kings, like other royalty. Like, you have some with Irene, but Irene's was a little bit different than Ignil's, because hers was in a very broad sense. Whereas, like, Ignil's is like, yeah, out of the fire dragons, I am the king of fire dragons. So maybe Kirin will be their king of, you know, his dragon types. I wonder if that would fall under wind, though, because it's like the atmosphere and the air is related to wind. So it's like, would he be the king of Grandine species of dragons, or like how would that work? Again, there's a lot of questions it could give that it doesn't really help answering. Like, one thing that is going to be really confusing, because Mishima has said that he plans to bring Gildarts, Sting, and Rogue into the 100 Years quest. Gildarts was already given like some form of strange, maybe not connection, but there's a similarity between him and Kirin with their magic. I still think it's like gonna be like, oh, they're related somehow kind of reveal, because I think that just makes sense with like the magic being similar like that. But if it's Gildarts, one, that'll be so weird, because it's like, how is this gonna like play into Gildarts coming in the story now if he's like in this coffin? But two, does that mean Gildarts is a king, or is Kirin speaking more just in, like, he's not serious, he's just kind of like talking to talk, he's like hyping up someone like Gildarts? Who knows? Like, the weird thing about like Gildarts, if it is Gildarts, that would make it even harder and more confusing, would be the fact that we don't really know anything about Gildarts' backstory. So like, would Gildarts be like some, you know, disgraced prince or something that left the kingdom, maybe didn't want to be king or something? I guess that would explain his crazy magical power, but it's like, we have really nothing to go off of. All we know is he has a king in there. There's a lot of dead kings in Fairy Tail, and Kirin, I would hope, is going to give that reveal soon, but I feel like it's going to be something that's going to sit for a bit. The only way I can really see us getting it soon is if it's going to be one of those things, because it was mentioned last chapter, it's immediately followed up on in the next chapter. But I don't know. Because, like, the thing is also on top of that, is what does the soul inside the coffin do? Does it just make it heavier? Will it have, like, will he be able to use some of their abilities and effects? I mean, at that point, it'd be very obvious whoever it is if he used one of their abilities, because then we could just connect it. Like, oh, he's using an attack, like, what looks like Acnologia's attacks, okay? We know it's just raw giant energy beams or something. You know, if it's Margir, we're gonna see some thorns. If it's Celestial Spirit King, we'll see some starlight. Like, there's stuff in there that will give us indicators, but, like, until we actually get to the point where that reveal is going to occur, like, it's just gonna sit as one of those weird things. But at the same time, I'm actually stumbled upon that. It's actually gonna be really fun for me to theorize and, like, try and figure out who this is up until the point it's revealed. And even after it's revealed, it's gonna be really interesting to talk about, like, okay, well, where do we go from here? I feel like the safest guess is the soul of the dragon that Kirin consumed. Like, him and Georg, they found the dragon, fought it, managed to defeat it as, like, the strongest out and it would also make sense of, like, Kirin's the strongest, allegedly, out of the members of Diablos besides Georg. But it'd be like, okay, well, they beat the dragon, but not only that, he just wanted to add insult to injury, put its soul inside of a coffin so he can weaponize it. Because I also think, and this is just an extra thing, this is the last thing I'll kind of talk about, I think it would also make sense because each of the dragon eaters in the Dark Dragon Slayer Knights, at least so far, have had something that is like an item tied to their abilities in some way, shape, or form. Maybe not directly, but there's something that they use instead of just their hands. Well, sort of directly. Like, they have an accessory, I guess is the easiest way to say it. Suzaku has a sword, Haku has that coat, and Kirin has the coffin. I'm guessing Misaki's has the crown, but we'll just have to, again, wait and see about that. But I think it makes sense. If Suzaku got the sword, if Kirin got a coffin to use as his weapon, and then imbue, like, the soul of that dragon there. We'll see. If it is this dragon, we should be able to get a name, which would be pretty hyped. And I really want to get names for all the Dragon Eaters, dragons, since those were existing dragons. It's not like Elisarea where he learned his dragon slaying magic himself. It's like that, the dragons that they ate existed, so I'd like some names. But anyway, other than that, they'll comment below. Thumbs up the video, prefer like button, subscribe, and check out my other videos. But I appreciate you guys already subscribing. Thank you all for listening. Bye.